How's everybody doing tonight? Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat. Woo. Struggle streaming. Doing our NIST 800-53R5. Doing program management today. Yep, totally agree. Yeah, I remember that as a consultant. Yeah, I used to have to work a lot of the holiday. Yeah, sometimes holidays could be uh, stressful in the Fed space. Shout out to Larry for joining. Shout out to Farron. We're gonna give Farron congratulations. Shout out to Space Taco. Shout out to Study GRC in the house. Definitely check them out, doing some great privacy stuff. Shout out to Moxie. So let's roll. Oh, man, I'm hopefully make it through. Excuse me. Study 3-tier AWS architecture. So today we actually going to hit a little more into privacy, which kind of caught me by surprise, to be honest. So once again, this 800-53 catalog of security controls for all federal information systems. Everybody know I'm a NIST guy, National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is a non-regulatory agency of the United States Department of Commerce. NIST develops and issues standard guidelines and other publications to assist FISMA, Federal Information Security Modernization Act of 2024, FISMA, Federal Information Security Modernization Act of 2014. That was actually the government releasing that. Here's the 20 security families in the NIST 800-53R5. We're actually doing program management today. My bad. I need to change that slide. So in the PM, so we're actually rolling down, almost done, hitting the 20 families. So once again, program management. It's actually a huge security family. And so we're going to run through these, but we're not going to talk about each one of those. I think I pulled about 5 slides out. Then we're going to dive into privacy a little bit, because privacy's delved into a lot in the program management. I actually thought it was going to be more in the PI family. I was pleasantly surprised with that. So shout out to my man Dwight. Hopefully come up and join me shortly. Hopefully give us a little privacy lesson. Unless he's tired, I will understand. Though he's young, though, I won't understand. I won't understand if Dwight don't come up. I got sweaters older than Dwight. Now, shout out to Dwight. I know he's got a lot going on. So, yep. This weekend, tomorrow, actually. My bad. I'm going to do AWS privacy architecture tomorrow at 6. My bad. So let's look at the families right there. There's something blocking my screen. So let's get on over there. So this is the program management family. So P1 is information security program plan. PM2 is information and security program leadership. This is one kind of caught me by surprise. Information security and privacy resource. 4 is POAMs, plan of action and milestone process. System inventory. Measurements of performance, enterprise architecture, critical infrastructure plan, risk management strategies in the PM. I guess once again that caught me. Authorization process, mission and business process definition, insider threat, security and privacy workforce. Once again, caught me a little bit off guard. Testing, training, and monitoring. PM15 is Security Privacy Groups Association. Threat Awareness Program. Protect, control, unclassified information. Once again, 18 and 19, Privacy Program Plan. Privacy Program Leadership Role. Once again, 20 is Disseminate Privacy Program Information. Accounting of Disclosure. 22 is PII, Data Governance Body, Data Integrity Board, minimization of PII information used in testing, training, and research. I get in huge arguments over PM25 because developers want to use production data to test. So I was arguing about that 15 years ago, and I'm arguing about that now. So that one's always interesting. Compliant management, privacy reporting, risk framing, risk management program leadership roles, supply chain risk management strategy, continuous monitoring, and purposing, PM32. So once again, a huge family. We're going to pick up a few things from the privacy and risk and kind of delve into that a little more. Then we're going to take those slides and extend them tomorrow for AWS privacy architecture, which kind of goes along with privacy engineering. So I think, that's what we're going to touch on tomorrow. So still doing my slides. So let's see what questions are out there. Let's see. Where we at? Shout out to them. You supposed to be rocking the vintage Christmas sweater from '86. I actually got one. I think I'm going to do that probably next week. We're going to do the vintage. I got the Coogee. I think I can squeeze into it. We're going to see. I might do that. Wait, did he just say tomorrow at 6 p.m.? Yeah, I love early session. Yeah. Shout out to Chris Whitlock wants me to do more early session. Yeah, we're going to do tomorrow 6. AWS privacy architecture. All NC workers in. Shout out to NC worker. Appreciate you. Okay, what is strategic planning in the framework? Okay, let's go back real quick and look at that. Let's see. What is strategic planning in that framework? What number was that? Strategic planning. I like this. What PM number was strategic planning? There's a lot of numbers here. Strategic planning. I just like to know the PM number. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but it'd be nice to see. Oh, strategic planning. Did I say strategic planning? Was that off the PM fund, or are you just asking me in general? Architecture. There's a lot of subfamilies in the PM. Where is the strategic planning in the framework? I think that's actually planning. If you go back to the NIST 800 security families, I thought he was talking about here. I think it's going to be in planning, the PL. We're in PM. Strategic planning, I believe, was in planning, which was the PL. We're actually in the PM. So let's start rolling. Where everybody know the -1 is the policies and procedures. Develop and disseminate an organizational-wide information security program plan. Provides an overview of the requirements for the security program, a description of security management controls and common controls in place or plan for meeting those requirements, including identification of assignment of roles, responsibilities. So that'll be your standard system security program plan. Then we have our system security plan, right, which was the individual controls. This is talking about how do you document your program. Information security program plan is a formal document that provides overview of security requirements for an organization-wide information security program and describes the program management controls and common controls placed or planned for meeting those requirements. All right, so when I go to a lot of companies, agencies, and organizations, they might have an SSP, which talks about the controls and how you implement it. but nobody talks about security program. How do you run a whole program for your organization, right? So starts off with your roles and responsibilities, who does what level of security you're at, what compliances are you? You a HIPAA, FISMA, NIST shop, right? Then how do you go about scanning, vulnerability, compliance? Just so many things in a security program. I've seen them big with, I'm sorry, small 2 or 3 people, and I've seen security teams as big as 20 people, right? Of course, those are usually national and worldwide companies that have security plans that big. So let's keep rolling. The leadership role: appoint a senior agency information security officer with the mission and resources to coordinate, develop, implement, and maintain organization-wide information security plan. So when you bid on work, RPs, or do work for large organizations or getting work, the first thing they say is you need a security person. That could be a chief information security officer, VP of security, but something, as they say right there, a senior agency information security officer, right? You can call it what you want, but they need to be a senior person that has budget, hiring, firing, and who is that's their primary role. Security, privacy, and resources include resources needed to implement the information security privacy program in capital planning, investment requests, and document all exceptions to this requirement. Prepare documentation required for addressing information security and privacy program and capital planning. Investment accordance with applicable laws, executive order, directories, and so a lot of times people would talk about security, but they didn't give it a budget, meaning you couldn't do it. So now they want to say, we need to see your budget to make sure you got money to actually do it. We need budget so we can hire good people like NC Workers, Space Tacos, Aikens in the house. Chris Whitlock just showed up when I said his name 3 times. So that's kind of new though. Recently, probably in that last 5 years, I started seeing people. Okay, we want to see your budget, right, or your roadmap and what you're gonna buy. Because if we're gonna give you this government contract, we want to know you got to be able to support it, especially if you're small. Now, if you Oracle or AWS or Azure, they got billions in their stock. But if you some company we don't know, and one thing part of third party is assessment we do now, and a lot of times I forget to do it in my research, is what is the financial health of your company? We were looking at one vendor, then somebody actually looked up the vendor was bankrupt. So you're like, uh-oh. Long story, we called them. They were in chapter 7 or 11, so they were reorging. So they proved to us, but that kind of shocked me. Like, oh, when you buy software, you need to make sure that company's not going bankrupt and try to get your money, and then declare bankruptcy, right? So that's one of the security checks from a third party assessment. What's the viability financially of a company? So shout out to Aiken. Good evening, Alan Jones Consulting. Glad you could join me. Thanks for teaching us skills and showing us true insight. No problem, Don. Anytime, any place. If you got any questions, you see them in there. Put them in the chat. Tech or cybersecurity, we'll definitely get to them. I actually got one. Let's see. Don't forget to drop professor like. Yeah, get my likes up. No, I'm just I love when people say that. Get my likes up. Asking in general. Yeah, it should be in planning. Okay, that should be in planning. It's more the blueprint where planning is more strictly up. Yep. So programs got so many project systems. Yep. So the program is how are you going to handle your projects and how are you going to create your system plan. Because in your programs, like when I was at, a lot of people know I used to work for the Department of Revenue. I reported to the IRS. In there, we would have tax systems with security on it, collecting taxes, giving tax refunds, right? Each one of those were different systems, right? Security a lot of times will be the same because we report to the IRS. But then two is what surprised me is a lot of departments of revenues and state, they're bill collectors for the rest of the state because we get your state tax return. You owe your college money, no tax return for you. You owe your baby mama, no tax return for you. College, no. BMV, you got a speeding ticket, no state tax return for you. All right. So we were moving about 10,000 files a month. It was crazy. So part of that, of course, PCI is in there. So in your program, you're going to have many different security levels, many different security plans, because each organization or federal wants a different system security plan. Like HIPAA and High Trust wants something when we send files for them. Child welfare, Social Security Office wants, different hardening, different security controls, right? So your program tells you how you're going to standardize that, but of course, each one of those agencies kind of do things a little different. Let's see. Got you up with facts. Facts. Where do we find all the templates to implement all these controls? It depends on what you want to do. If you go to fedramp.gov, I'm a NIST guy. So fedramp.gov has a ton of templates for NIST. Everything from we were looking at MOUs, memorandums of understanding, contracts between you and third-party vendors, how you're going to move filing your security. SSPs is in fedramp.gov. Those are heavy templates, though, for usually larger companies. Those templates be like 10 pages. So people know I'm a big guy, I do big systems, and I make big money. So that's how we roll in my channel. So let's keep going. Throwing Chris out here trying to outwork the L. Shout out to Chris. He do be working. Shout out to both of y'all. I see. Do you go through the entire environment at work, or do you just work on certain categories? It's really in depth. Just curious. The funny thing is, yes and no. I usually don't go over the risk management framework. The reason why is I report to the IRS, and they usually do that for you. They do your categorization. They tell you if you're moderate or low or high. What's your risk? Because you're taking their data, they tell you your risk. So theoretically, the RMF is done. But everything from NIST 800-53, which is the 20 families, I get in depth with those. Usually, I usually delegate that because I'm a senior guy. Usually, we have policy writers. Usually, I usually have to go work with the development team. Infrastructure. What's our hardening? Are we doing STIG, CIS checks, schisms? Work with that. Work with the development team to their pipeline. How are we testing their, if we got customized software. So different things like that. Let's see. Where does the target operating model and system architecture fit into the whole picture? Where does the target operating model and security architecture? Usually we try to set up the security architecture at the beginning and the target operating model. So here, I'll do it super quick. Let's see, that's PM3. So we'll say something. This is our standard tier 3 security architecture. You see EC2, this is AWS. So in there, we would have our AIM, how we're going to do identity access management control, encryption, database, how encryption. We have hardening templates for STIG. It tells you the security control on each one of these infrastructure and devices and what they need to be set. Once again, I do NIST, STIGs, or DoD hardening. So that'll be your template, your operating system, and any device in your organization, how we going to harden it. Are we going to do STIGs? If we don't have a STIG, we do a CSC check, or we could do a CIS check. So we will have all that figured out and drilled down too. Let me know. I got other videos I can shoot for you to kind of help you dig a little deeper in that. ISO now. Shout out to ISO. Shout out to my man. Where Min at? ISO guy, I love building cyber functions based on how to use NIST instead. Yeah, they're I would say they're similar. I think they have different things they're trying to accomplish. Okay, awesome. What I was asking, like still learning. So the 25th. Yep, Don. Everybody's learning. It's all good. So let's keep rolling. Let me see. I was gonna leave that highlighted. It's not too bad. So I know where to go. Let's keep rolling. My bad. PM information security resources. That's 3. Includes the resource needed to implement information security, privacy programs, In capital planning and investment, we were talking about that. Request to document all exceptions. Prepare documentation for address information security process. Once again, applicable laws. I think I read that. 4, the POAM, plan and action of milestones. Implement a process to ensure plan actions and milestones. That's just a schedule. It's just a cool word for a schedule, POAM. For the information security, privacy, and supply chain risk. Management programs associated with the organization's systems are developed and maintained. Plan of the actions and milestone is a key document. Yeah, because if you do CONMON, which is continuous monitoring, as part of that is when you have a finding, when you have a vulnerability, the POAM just tells you when it's going to be fixed. If you're doing STIG, it's Cat 1, 2. You got a Cat 1, which means you're vulnerable and it's been taking a while. You got 30 days to fix it. If you can't fix it on your plan in 30 days, you got to have a mitigating control, what you're going to do. So you always should have a plan. And we're going to do that. We're going to start labbing. So we're probably going to use a planner inside Office 365, set up a standard POAM and put some milestones on it, right? We had a S3 bucket. We couldn't put the KMS key at the proper level. So it's not as hard as it won't. We got 30 days to fix it because it's a Cat 1. So we'll show how to put it in the planner. Cool thing about planner is once you get 5 days out, it'll start sending email reminders for you. So do that security team and probably the PM of the project. System inventory, develop and update an inventory for organizational systems. You see that OMB 830 provides guidance and development system inventory. A lot of times people are using Defender, Microsoft Defender. It has built-in inventory, scans your network, and it'll populate your inventory. So a lot of people use that. Enterprise architecture, develop and maintain. And we're going to look at that from a privacy standpoint coming up. Develop and maintain an enterprise architecture with consideration of information security, privacy, and the results, risk to your organization, operational assets, individuals, and others to your organization, right? So what is that? The enterprise architecture, right? You have an enterprise architecture with the enterprise. What are you using? What's your web server? What's your app server? What's your database, right? Then the security part is how are we securing this beautiful architecture this guy did, right? Once again, how we encrypt it. Are we using Active Directory? Are we using Active Directory in the cloud, AFDS? Are we using AWS and Azure together, multi-cloud? So are we logging into AFDS, which is Active Directory in the cloud, getting a tick from that to using that ticket to log into AWS, right? So from a security perspective, how are you locking down your multi-cloud? How are people logging on? We know we got some MFA or 2A. So how's your organization handling security? Once again, that's the security architecture that sits on top of the enterprise architecture. I've gotten into serious arguments with architectures and architects because I didn't think they were doing security properly. Right? I thought there was some things where we were violating our federal agency. This wasn't HITRUST certified. This wasn't FedRAMP certified. So if we got audited, we could get in trouble. All right. So let's keep going. Once again, throw any questions down there. Dime was in there. There you see the privacy plan. PMA team develop and disseminate an organization-wide privacy program plan. Provides an overview of an agency privacy program, including description of structure, privacy program, and resources dedicated to a privacy program. I actually asked the Whitecomb because I've been this for 20 years. I've never done a privacy program plan. Now, when I do security, privacy is kind of baked in underneath at I would say a very loose level, right? If I'm doing TLS, I'm protecting your privacy, right? It's encrypted. If you're in an S3 bucket and I got a KMS key and it's FIPS 143 certified, meaning that's encryption's been approved by the government, I'm protecting your privacy. But I've never done a privacy program. So we're actually going to touch on that today and a little more tomorrow because they're actually hitting privacy super hard in this security and sub-security programs. I just never done a formal plan like here. I've been in here for 20 minutes, man. I mean, either. So for me, that was kind of something new. So the cool thing when I go through these and people say, PBL, why do you do it? You know, nah, I'm always learning too. And each year, this is Red 5. So, and it's been out for a couple years. This is my first time really digging into Red 5. So I didn't see all those privacy components. Here, let me drop the link and see if Dwight want to come up or Chris wants to come up or really anybody wants to come up. But so we're going to dig a little more into privacy. That's all the NIST families I'm hitting now. I'm about to touch in the technical part of this. We about to delve in a little bit into privacy. Once again, I'm a little light on that, so I was like, let me get a feel for this, right? So and see what they're asking for. Once again, I do a lot of external and internal auditing. I help smaller companies, which I shouldn't do. I own probably 3% of 20 companies with net worth of zero. But no, I like helping smaller firms. So I help them with their documentation. The last one they were doing a hit and run app. It was good. They needed some documentation. So I did some sieges, which is FBI security. The state police reports to the FBI. So if you're in a car wreck, right, you're probably going to be looking at sieges type security to make sure all their data is tight. So let's keep rolling. So we were talking about, I've done a few of these, is data flow diagram. I just never focused it on security. Where's my mouse at? My mouse is acting funny. There it is. I think. Here, let's do this. So this is your standard data flow. If you see those PIs, that's PII information, personal identifiable information, PII. So what they did is in their architecture at the top, those are your business functions. They said, where's PII flowing into their business function and in their business flow? And I always say this, when I talk security with executives, they don't care about servers on the second row. They care about the loan application processes down. Down here, that could be an Oracle database, a DynamoD database is down. They want to know loan application. They don't give a shit about the database being down, right? We do, right? Information do. And since we're doing a data flow diagram, the loan application has PII. These are our loan systems that controls that PII. Those systems has this IT architecture and IT process on top of it. So those systems flow into a data warehouse, a data lake, data marts, risk data mart, operational data mart, financial data mart, and analytic data mart. In those data mart, you can do dashboards and reporting tools, right? Executives love to see dashboards that turn red, right? So they know they need to do something, right? So that's what they're saying. But that's tracking your PII through your infrastructure, so you know where it's at. Let's see. How do I spell sieges? Oh, I'll put that in the chat. Oh, you got it right there. Space Taco on it. You're correct. That's sieges. That's actually FBI. And the state police at the state level reports federally to the FBI. No, you did it right. That's a good call. I need to spell those acronyms out. I've just been doing it for 20 years. So once again, you see right there at the top is the business functions. So when I'm trying to talk to the C-suite or vice presidents, I usually talk business functions. Then under those business functions are systems. Those systems have IT process and procedures. This is quite normal: data warehouse, data lakes, data mart, dashboards. And the last one always gives me heartburn. Can they export that data out to Excel spreadsheets and business manager applications? So a lot of times I try to block exporting out to a spreadsheet, right? Because then you can have 10 million rows in somebody's laptop, right, on the spreadsheet. So I try to force them to do the dashboards, right, which is on the web. It's in the protected zone of your organization, right? We got micro segmentation in there. So I try to block the Excel spreadsheets or and those type of things where people can download your information and walk out with it. So it's getting a little easier once again with those data mart and data dashboards. Here, once again, I dropped the link if anybody wants to come up. So let's start digging into some of these privacy issues. or not issues, opportunities. A lot of times too, you have multiple privacy compliance you're doing, GDPR, which is your CCPA. Then if you did business in Canada, of course you would have to be a global company to do that. And two is what's unique about both and what's shared between them, and how do you uh, keep track of that, right? And we're going to look at some of that: right to know, right to access, right to delete, right to request, access to control, data breach reporting or notification. Each state or each union or each, if you're in a continent, each of those data breaches could be different. How many records have to be stolen before you report? What's the time frame you need to report? What information do you need to give the state general attorney if you're in a, because each state has their own breach notification. So from a privacy perspective, you have to keep track of all of that. So one thing I do now in my third party assessments, it's usually by state. Out whatever state I'm doing a RP, RFI, where that software comes in, or where most of our customers is, I'm looking up that breach notification for that state. Right. Instead of Indiana, I believe if you lose anything over 500 records, I think you got 14 days to report it to the state general attorney, or you get a big ass fine. Right. So you need to learn, you need to know those. So once again, for your third party assessment, you as a great GRC person should be on those. So let's keep going on that. Here's some of the things from a privacy standpoint you need to ask or be aware of. Data minimization. It's the principle of data protected that stimulates the organization should collect, use, and retain the minimum amount of personal data necessary to achieve a specific goal. Right. So you're not gonna be like Google and get fined. They just collect as much data as they can. They were getting your IP address, getting your address, cross-referencing it with your credit card data. Right? They were just sucking in all of that. But you, as a person, try to minimize the data you give to third parties. Somebody came up. Let's see who it is. Mr. Privacy himself. I'm gonna give him a round of applause. We saw him today about noon. Where was I at? I was at the dentist. I couldn't join, but I was checking him and my man Chris Lott, the one and only Mr. CIPP, United States and Europe. Dwight in his house. Welcome, man. That was player, man. Man, that was good, wasn't it? Shout out to me. Go ahead, man. I can't hear you. You muted. I can't hear you, man. You mute. Is it me or you? Can y'all hear him in the chat? Can y'all hear my man Dwight in the chat? Is it me or you? Let's see. Let's see. Let me make sure. I got you up. I got you in there. Let's see. Did I do something wrong? Hold on. Let me bump you up. Say something, Dwight. I'm not registering you in my. I'm not registering me on Restream. Yep, Dime said they can't hear you. It's a you, not a me. Okay, you gonna reload and see? Okay, that's cool. So while Dwight's getting this comes back up, let's keep going. Oh, he came right back. Let's see. My introduction was too good. I messed it up. Try now.
Yo.
Got you. Crystal clear.
Too many microphone options. What's going on, man? Appreciate the introduction.
No, that's cool. All good. I'm glad you came up. Did you have anything on the privacy stuff for I hitting so I'm gonna keep rolling. You got anything to add to that?
No, sir. Roll in, and then if you want me to jump in anywhere, we were talking about consent today, so I was like, oh, that's my cue. Let me get in here.
Yeah, there you go. Go and jump on that third line. I'll let you read it. Can you read it? I'll let you add on to that. I was listening while I was getting my teeth cleaned. Go ahead.
Yeah, orgs must get valid consent for the collection and processing of personal data, so individuals have the right to withdraw that consent at any time. Um, yeah, these are all pretty fundamental, but often overlooked.
To be honest, from a security and we never really talked about this till recently when I worked for a big company. Usually we just say you're secure. We really don't. We believe and I'm gonna state this, and I've been around for about 10 years. I thought my security was giving you privacy. My security stopping you forget to hack, but like you said, I'm not getting consent. I'm not giving you to right to delete. I'm giving you to right to know. So, uh, and I think that's something as the whole security domain was lacking in. I think you're hitting on it, and you're on the forefront. Privacy is becoming real big, especially with GDPR and CCPA. I think they're really hitting on that.
There's a lot of pressure, man. These laws coming so quick. We got,
Oh man.
I think, 5 going into effect in January, 8 total for 2025. So there's a lot of pressure that's going to be coming a lot from the legal teams and stuff, telling security people or whoever that's supposed to be handling this that, hey, you gotta do this, y'all gotta figure it out. So
The sad part about it is, unless you're a national company, most companies don't have a whole legal team. You make it sound like most companies got a whole legal floor. That is incorrect, sir.
it
only
doesn't,
big,
but
only
it
big
doesn't
companies.
necessarily it doesn't
I would
necessarily have to be like in the company, the legal team, like somebody, somebody.
I don't disagree with you, but most companies have their legal staff on retainer. They don't. They ask them when they're gonna get sued or they doing contracts. They don't. They very really ask them about. I could be wrong. I just never seen. Now I used to work for a big national company. Now we had a lawyer, a floor of lawyers. They on top of it. They be they be working with you. They be reading the contracts and the click throughs. But most mid to small men come. I don't think they're gonna do it. What's your thoughts on that? Or am I curmudgeon and I'm wrong? I could be wrong.
But I would think that, yeah, for your, for your state and federal stuff, that it may not be lawyers, but they're gonna be coming down on this privacy stuff
No, I
a little
agree.
hard. And if they not, it's gonna be coming up over and over again going forward.
No, I agree. If you in my Fed space, because they got money, that's why I try to be in it. But your regular private company, if you under if you're under 5 million, I don't think you got legal staff that's gonna be on you like that. Now, if you try to do federal work, they're gonna make you be on it. But most, I think the commercial gonna be late. Once again, I could be wrong.
In the private space where we see this is coming from a trust enablement perspective. So it's more like, I need to do this so that I can close deals, sort of thing. Not necessarily like, oh, I'm so honest, I just want to be transparent to all my customers. It's like, no, I need to, in order to close these deals, they're saying I need to have this and this and this and this, and I need to be compliant with these laws. And
If it's,
that's where you see the pressure coming in
I agree, but
from the
once
private
again,
arena.
if you're not doing state or federal contracts, if it's commercial to commercial, not government, I don't. I think they're gonna be a little lax. But once again, I could be wrong, man. I could be wrong. I could be
But
wrong.
just the same way that they're coming in and saying like, okay, what is your security stuff? All this third party stuff. They're starting
Hmm.
to
No,
tack
they
on
are.
a couple privacy controls to that too.
No, you're right. You're right on that. I give you that. You're right. Let's see the data access and portability. Individuals have the right to access their personal data and receive it in a commonly used format. That's one thing I've never done is, I sign up to a website and I try to access I never went on Facebook and be like, let me see my stuff, right? So, uh, then once again, data accuracy. Organization must take reasonable steps to ensure personal data is accurate and up to date. Data security. Organization must implement appropriate controls and organization. The one I've been trying to do a lot more because I do third party assessments. I used to do third party assessments. Data breach and notification because each state has their own data breach notification by their state general attorney. So when I do RFPs, I try to look at the state and see what their breach notification is.
Yeah, I think for the technical folks, it's good to look at these rights and start to think like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
how does that happen on your back end?
Mm-hmm.
How are we making sure that people can access their data? How do we go in and delete them? You have to delete them and then have a record that you're deleting. We're not just going in and like clearing all.
No,
So you kind of have to have all those processes and stuff in place in advance. And sometimes you're right. People never, like the company I'm dealing with now, they might get 20 requests a year, where some companies are getting they're
Face
spending tons of money on trying to handle all these
Facebook, yeah, Facebook and
incoming
Google.
requests.
Yeah, Facebook and Google get sued every day. So yeah, they got 3 floors of people just doing it, and they've been fined GDPR up to $1 billion. So for them, they got all that um in place to stuff to block it.
For GDPR, some of these rights as well are also you're on the clock for.
Oh yeah.
So if you put in a request to have your data deleted, they as soon as you get it, I think you have like anywhere from 30 to 45 days where you got to get a response. Now you can extend that, but it really puts some pressure on companies to make sure they're being responsive.
Yeah, and it's coming up. This guy, and I think I sent you that article. He kind of laid out a program to help him organize that. So I thought that was interesting. Let's get that right to delete. They actually got CCPA in there. California residents has the right to request that an organization delete their personal information. Because a lot of times people say you're deleting it, but they market for deleting. They keep doing it because they're selling your digital dossier to the entities to make money. What's your thoughts on that?
That is the name of the game. If you're not hearing about it, somebody's doing it.
Yeah,
You got to figure out who's got your data. Luckily, they've got some apps and stuff out there,
yeah.
Delete Me and other stuff that you can kind of track stuff down. But is scary.
No, it is. What about California? Do you guys, and we were just talking about California with the right to delete there. Do you guys have a separate policy for CCPA and Privacy Act? When I worked for a large company, we did have our own CCPA, New York, DFR, and Virginia, and I think Colorado. So we try to harmonize between those and try to get the most restrictive. So if we apply with the most restrictive, we'll be compliant with the other one. So that's how we were doing it. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that process of choosing the most restrictive guidelines. A lot of times, the real restrictive thing is the GDPR,
Oh, by
or
far.
or a CCPA. So people will
Oh,
kind of go with those. But you
mm,
do have to still look at these new laws coming out, because there will be some random little caveats, like how
mhm,
um, what exactly, like what are the categories of sensitive data might be a little bit different
mhm.
from you know Colorado to California and things like that. So, but yeah, that process is in privacy, we call that rationalizing
Yeah,
your
we call
compliance.
we call it harmonizing. I hate that term. I think I like rational. And the last one is the right to opt out. So same thing for California. You can opt out of some, or if they're selling things, you can opt out. And I think the white hit on that. And I think us as GRC people need to bring those requirements to IT, because those are humming. And I think part of governance risk and analysis, there's a big privacy piece, and we got to put that together, because that's a risk, and that's definitely something we need to be compliant with. So that's some in 2025. I think I'm gonna dig in, and that's what made me kind of delve into the privacy a little more. I have to get comfortable with that, because I see that a lot in contracts, or when you're dealing with other vendors, and if you're doing federal work, like Dwight said, you got to be in compliant with those privacy. So you at least got to understand them at a high level, so you at least know what to look at. Most people don't even know what to look at. Any thoughts on that? I'll let you chime in on that.
No, I think you got it. I think we mentioned this in a in one of the previous families, but
Mm-hmm.
um, talking about privacy architecture. But yeah, how does what you got on the screen now? How does that look?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you're getting on the line talking privacy. Like, yeah, we talking about lawyers, but you gotta talk to the database folks and everybody else
Mm-hmm.
about how to manage all these rights that people are trying to enforce.
Yeah, and I think that's the sweet spot for GRC, because it's not really lawyer, and it's not IT. It's really not even security. It has its own lane with its own requirements, and its own program, like we talked about. I talk about a security program now. I think we need to be talking about what is your privacy program, right? So I think in the old days we kind of say security includes privacy, and I think privacy is getting big enough where it's going to get a separate. Uh, I think it's going to get a separate organizational infrastructure. Like everything was under security, and then we took GRC out of security. Then I think we're going to take privacy out of GRC. Well, I'm not going to even say that. Privacy is not even in GRC yet, so I think it's going to spin off into its own thing. Well, it's going to be more prevalent because, like you said, there's new laws and new things that you got to hit upon on top of that.
I see. I mean, and I think it's going to be this case for a while. But I see these job descriptions, and they just kind of pushing some privacy stuff in there, like all you doing all
Mm-hmm.
this security stuff, and then the last little bullet points will be
Yeah.
a couple privacy things. So
Um,
I think we're going to see
GDPR,
more.
CCPA. Go ahead. I see that a lot.
We're going to see more and more of that. Yeah,
No, I think too as a selling point for you as trying to get a job. I think that's something you could bring up because I think a lighter cut on. I think people know they should be talking about it, and most people never talk about it. So I think that'll be a nice niche or something you could bring to an organization bringing privacy. You know, being able to walk through that, talking about the privacy requirements. I think that'll be a selling point in the future.
for sure.
So this was, and I sent you that article. This is kind of their privacy program. So they talk about having a privacy portal. We just talked about that reporting, opt in, out, opt out, ability to withdraw. Right. So they got a portal. And of course, you have policy managements and policies that should support what you can do in that portal. And at the bottom, we were talking about legislation. Legislation, man, I'm tired of government. Now those stuff rolls in there. Then the other part that kind of once I dug into it, people data management and repository data. All right. So those are the data you're keeping that so you're keeping track of. The other part in there though is do you have consent to change it in management from a repository? So Dwight's the privacy VP, he should be able to go in there and change it, right? Me as security, I might not be able to go and change privacy data. Right. I could put roles and security on it, but I shouldn't be able to go in and change it as a security person. And the other part of that go is the governance. We talked about that data lineage, data quality, which is kind of new for me. The metadata piece of that, roles and responsibility. So I thought that article kind of created a privacy program with a privacy portal, kind of like you would do a security program. So I thought that was kind of unique. I never saw it brought up quite like that. You got any thoughts on that?
It's yeah, something to think about because the the tools that do it well are really expensive. If you guys have seen things like Wine Trust and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but trying to, if you're not using something like that, something automated, you really have to, like I said, just being like really good communication, have tickets that are flying around, and you got to have a real good, back to the program management, a real good plan for this stuff because something as simple as deleting people's data isn't that simple. You have to
Mm-hmm.
verify that they say who they are. You have to verify that you can even delete the data if there's any sort of is it publicly valuable? Does it have any sort of legal claim
Mm-hmm.
in it? If for any of those reasons you can actually deny their claim to have their data deleted. So there's other considerations in there, and it isn't just as simple as put the ticket in, let the database guy delete it, and hit the folks back and tell them that their data's gone. It's Yeah, you got to have it's really got to be reviewed by somebody, and you got to have a trail for all of that.
I'll tell you the thing that really when I was digging in, and I think I sent you that AWS article is if you got a data lake and you got a petabytes of information, you pull the stuff for credit monitoring and brokering, you can have a billion rows out there. So they said, okay, you pull it out your data lake, put it in that data mart. So if they say delete it, you got to delete it from all those sources. And sometimes we call it raw. We just got it sitting on a disk and we just sucked it in on a humble and it kind of flowed through and we like it. But if somebody says you got to delete it, we got to find all the places because you took that data, transformed it, did data quality on it, sent it to a financial broker, got it back, put it in a dashboard, put it in a spreadsheet. So you got to delete it in all those places. Once that article said it, I was like, oh shit, how you keeping track of that? But they talked about that's part of that data lineage, right? Where's
Yeah.
all the lines of that, and are you keeping track of that so you can go through and delete it all when since they have right to delete.
Again, if you're in AWS, OneTrust, DataGirl, these big well-known tools and stuff, you might be on top of it. My guess is that a lot of folks don't know where this data is.
No, you're gonna be struggling, man. You're gonna be struggling. And the thing too is, which there's so many silos in companies, and we move data, and I just to do some analysis on it, and you forget you moved it over there to do the analysis, and nothing ever came out of the analysis. So it's like you said, unless you're using some enterprise piece of software trying to keep track on that, it's gonna be brutal. So this was AWS's you see it up there, personal data. That's what they were using for risk. Each one of these services are in there. We're just gonna touch on a few of those today to highlight it. And but each one of those actually has privacy connotations on it, which I was surprised. We're gonna touch them. We're gonna touch on those a lot more tomorrow. Once again, I just picked a few today because I was like, I got 25 slides. That's too many. So local zones, if you need to comply with data residency and requirements, you can deploy this and store your process personal data in a specific region. The other red, when you use local zone, consider data residency controls that are deployed with the organization. For example, you might need to control to prevent data from transferring from a specific local zone to another region. For information, SCPs or system control policies, it stops you from blocking data. So if you look at the diagram, this process is in US West. This is on the East Coast. But if you look, trusted and kind of platform, this actually is GDPR information. So they want to make sure it doesn't get to the United States and contaminate the United States data. Why would I say contaminate it? If I get GDPR in the United States data, I gotta do all that GDPR stuff in my United States data because I commingle them. Since I commingle them, I gotta take the highest level of security. What did you call that? I call it harmonize,
Rationalizing. Yeah.
rationalize. So I would have to rationalize that to Europe. So this architecture makes sure you don't commingle your Europe data with your United States data. And let's see.
And not yeah, and
Go ahead. Go ahead.
it also sends you into a whole mess of compliance obligations, and
Mm-hmm.
because in order for those, you can't just be mixing the data; it has to be approved. So they have what they call the data privacy framework, which
Mm-hmm.
um, was previously like a safe harbor
Oh yeah.
program between the U.S. and EU that got shut down during all of the government surveillance stuff. So they've gone back and they have it again, but you can't just like just because you're able to do it in in AWS to mix the data together doesn't mean that it's actually um, approved approved by both jurisdictions to transfer data between them.
Yeah.
And then once you do, you have a whole host of things that you need to be compliant for. So that's the case with GDPR, but it's
Mm-hmm.
something you have to think about with any country
Mm-hmm.
that's going to have its own sort of privacy laws, is
Yeah.
data sovereignty. Like as soon as that data is hosted anywhere else, you're subject to the laws of that country. And I think coming in, that's a little bit confusing because we're used to just having pulling data from wherever, and
Yeah.
it's pinging across the world. But
Mhm.
With this sensitive data, people's private information, we really have to have that in control.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit tomorrow. So shout out to AWS. They usually, because they're trying to get that federal money, they usually have an architecture, right? This is a privacy architect, so we can have data sovereignty, data residency. We can keep track of that, so we can keep track of the compliance we need to be doing for that subset of data. So once again, you as a GRC person or a privacy person should at a high level understand architecture so you can work with your IT people, your compliance people, right, and your privacy people to say, this is what we need to do. This is approved from GDPR, and this is a known AWS architecture, right? So as a senior guy, that's why I'm talking about privacy architecture and what that looks like. Because my job is to work with the architects when they're design something. Because the white gonna be like, oh man, y'all can't be in there commingling data. Y'all gonna get us a big fine, right?
Break it up, break it up.
Yeah, so PBO gonna be like, I think we need to do the nitro setup, and this is what it looks like. The cool thing, people, we're gonna dig in this tomorrow is this is called nitro, and over here the U.S. East and West they share a standard hypervisor. This nitro they didn't want to share a standard hypervisor with Europe. This actually is a bare metal architecture you can spin up from AWS just for data sovereignty because they want to make sure it's purely separated. There's no ands and for buts because once again, AWS is a global company, so they're thinking like a global company. So they want to make sure none of the components underneath the share. So they're talking about this is their Nitro setup to make sure you're GDPR, like you said. PIPA, I think is Canada. Is PIPA Canada?
PIP EDA.
Yeah, I'm making up a name for it. Ain't that Canada? I think that's Canada. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's Canada.
so that's one architecture. Once again, we're gonna dig on this tomorrow. I got a privacy architecture, so we're gonna dig on these a little more. This is one of the bigger things too. I try to put it in the red. Data segmentation, and he just talked about is a process where you store data in separate containers. This helps you to provide differentiated security authentication measures for data sets. And the other big thing is red is you can have physical or logical separation to segment personal data, right? Physical separation is to store data in separate data stores and distributed your data in separate AWS resource. A logical is the act of isolating data by using access control, different job function with different levels of access to subset the data. For example, a policy that implements logical separation grant access to a specific Amazon DB attribute in this guide. So you got one Amazon DB table, but in there, I got GDPR data, United States data. It's logically separated by attributes saying what you can read. So Europe can only read these records, and the United States can only read these records. Right? I don't think GDPR lets you do logical separation, but I think HIPAA High Trust does, IRS does. So you need to understand when you can do logical versus when you can do physical. And once again, we're gonna dig down a little deeper tomorrow. Roll those sleeves up and get a little dirty, man. What's your thoughts on that?
For your Fed stuff like CUI and stuff like that, I don't think you're not going to be able to do logical either, are you?
Yeah, you can. You can on
Okay,
logical.
okay.
Well, let me check it out. If it's moderate and above, like it's PISSN. Now, when you talk about nuclear codes, all that stuff's got to be physical. If it's high, but yeah, IRS is moderate. CGIS is moderate. FBI data is moderate. Uh, health and hospital. I think that's even moderate. You got anything else on that one?
No, sir.
Once again, this is our and we're gonna start labbing about this. This is a data flow diagram where we trace our PII from a business function to the systems that supports the business function to the IT systems processes that use those systems. Once again, data warehouse, data lakes, data marts, dashboard and reporting. So, like he said, if we need to delete a person's information, we got to delete them out of all those items, right? So, And if you're a AWS or Google or Facebook, that could be trillions of rows you trying to find this data in to figure out what you need to delete, right?
And if they're a core customer, you it might be a little bit more defined. I think where people get into trouble with this is sometimes you don't you're collecting data on just a machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just have a tracking cookie or a pixel or something like that, and you're getting these folks data, and you have to be able to, if they're saying don't track me
Mm-hmm.
or what, you have to be able to apply that all the way across for whatever services you provide. And so it gets even tougher when you know we're just talking about website visitors.
Oh yeah, I think Google got in trouble because they were driving through, taking people pictures houses and grabbing IP addresses while they were doing it. So how do you know what IP address go to what house? Right. And the other architecture, this is the underlying architecture of it. It's called Nitro. It deploys a kernel that's separated from the parent instance kernel. The parent instance kernel does not have access to the enclaves. Users can't even SSH or remotely access the data and application in the enclave. Application that processes data can be embedded in the enclave and configured to use the VSOC. The socket that facilitates communication between the parent and instance. So that was this architecture we were talking about. So that's
Yep.
how AWS, because once again, they're trying to get that federal money, and they are getting some of that $9 billion cloud RFP. That's what they put in, so you can do your US and keep it separated from GDPR. And I'm really gonna dig into that because I just kind of stumbled onto it. It was like it used a separate kernel from the parent's instant kernel. I'm like, okay. Then at the second program, once you use the Nitro Enclave, can be used for joint processes between two separate data processors in a separate AWS regions that might not trust each other. The following image shows you can use an enclave for central processing. This is one that kind of threw me off. KMS keys for encrypting personal data before it's sent to the enclave. The KMS key policy verifies the enclave requesting and decrypting a unique measurement. I've never seen this in an encryption key. Yeah, it's an attestation document saying which key can read which what. So here, if you see the top, US 3 has a specific AWS key, encryption key. The 2 has a certain key. So when you get over there, it has an attestation document saying what data can read for both of these. But if that data from processor 1 went to processor 2, since it's not their key, they wouldn't be able to read it. So that attestation document was, so that's something I got to dig into. So I thought that was interesting. So I think that's all I have for that particular one. What's your thoughts on that? Once again, I got to dig into that. I was like, okay, we got an
Yeah.
attestation document on the keys now. So
I'm trying not to be down here scratching my head the whole
oh
time.
shit, I'm old and I was scratching my head on that. I had to read it a couple of times. I'm like, okay, I think I got what my man said, but once
The
again, we're gonna yeah,
VSOC.
the B
Oh
side,
man.
right? Yeah, right. So yeah, they're going deep. But once again, I think you brought it up. Quite not knowing is GDPR is that serious. So we want to make sure we're not getting one of them Facebook fine that's $1 billion, right? So
Yo.
we're gonna make sure our architecture is tight. So I think that's what it was saying. So once again, even as a old guy was chopping it up with Convo, he did a 4 or 5 minute. I put in the GRC Discord. The cloud is now, and AWS and Azure and Google, they're giving you the tools to be able to protect your privacy. You just got to understand how to use them, right? There and what's for what, and depending on your size, what you should do. You got anything to chime in on that one? I know that was a lot. I was like,
No. I'm with you. I'm with you. I agree. I think I've been watching these videos, and I got to do like a little bit of time because I don't understand all of it. But when we
yeah,
talk about that privacy architecture, like one of the hot topics at the moment is they're talking about these AWS clean rooms.
I
you
saw
know.
that. You sent
So
that to me. Yeah, I've looked. I
yeah,
started that. I was like, I'm gonna have to get some free time because I'm gonna have to be concentrating. That's just something I
you,
can't be
that's
thinking.
not leisure listening.
No,
No,
that
you
was on a whole nother level.
gotta.
I've never heard of that term, to be honest. I've been in this game.
Yeah,
That clean room was a little different.
but for anybody listening that's curious, they, you know, AWS does an end of the year conference, and
Okay.
they've been promoting this as a way, especially for different organizations, to be able to collaborate without commingling any
Yeah.
data. So you go into this clean room, and you know the data is submitted from both organizations, and then they're building like um, some sort of machine learning architecture that learns or creates, for example, a customer profile. Let's say you're using you know, customer data from two different organizations, and they might be like like it might be Netflix viewing data, I think was one example, and an automotive company. So completely different types of businesses, but then they're going in and they're building a model around customers who like popcorn or whatever. And then instead of actually sending the data for those people over to that other company, which would have privacy implications, they're building a lookalike machine learning session, and then using that to train um, to be able to train and build these marketing programs and see the likelihood that, you know, this particular segment of customers would be responsive to whatever it is you want to promote. And then that is a cleaner way to do it without actually having people's data exposed to this and that company, having to have a um, data sharing agreement, and you know, all these things that sort of going on with that. Let alone having the consent from the people, you know, visiting your website to actually be able to share that with these third parties, just so you can figure out how to, you know, how to sell more stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, I peeked it. I was like, ooh, that's on enough. And shout out to AWS, not even Azure. Those big events when I was younger, if you didn't go to an event, it was hard to get information about it. But now they always slice them, put them online. Like 2 days later, you like it. I think it's better because I could be in my office really concentrating and not be, you know, and I'm powered with 500 people trying to. So I really enjoy those, and I try to pick out a couple of tracks on AWS. They usually have their security track. I try to. I ain't gonna lie. I try to stay out of that AI/ML. That's just on a whole nother level, man. I'm like, I'm barely doing security, man. It's like I'm like, I don't want none of that. That AI/ML. Real quick, Tessa, what about the IRS? The IRS is moderate, so you can actually do logical separation with their data. Um, what we do is anytime even if we do a logical separation, we're gonna do the higher level of IRS control. So for us, we're gonna rationalize what he was saying. We're gonna rationalize at that level. So for us, it'll be the IRS. But once again, this is their architecture. We're gonna delve down a little deeper tomorrow at 6 and probably hit. I think we did 3 services tomorrow. I definitely want to hit AWS Glue from the pipeline, KMS. Uh, Once again, that local zone with that Nitro. The logging, how we can use logging to help you to protect your privacy. So we're gonna hit a little more and go into a little more detail of what that privacy architect. Like I've done enterprise architect, which is kind of the process of your company. I programmed for 15 years. Of course, I've done security architecture to sit on that. So I think for me, the next level is let's add privacy. It's right there. We're doing it. We just looked at the spreadsheet, and I think that was huge. And I probably just keep that in my back pocket. I think you probably got this memorized because you got the search for it. And I think a lot of people, these are the requirements, right? What's your minimization, your right to know? You talked about consent today, that access and portability, breach notification, right to delete, and the right to opt out, right? I think those are the security requirements. I'm sorry, privacy requirements. At a minimum, you need to be carrying them around. And I think, even if you're doing GDPR, CCPA, they all have parts of that in there. What's your thoughts on that?
I would recommend that people start with one of those two, depending on what all they've got going on. Start by learning the rights that are granted with the GDPR or the rights that are granted with the CCPA, and then that will sort of give you um, a kind of big level overview for all
Hmm.
these other
Yep.
laws and obligations that you have to do.
I
Um,
tr- I try to do
yeah,
CCPA because it's a United States one, but I don't. I think you're correct. Since I'm in the United States and I do mostly fair work, I try to start with the CCPA, which is they took a lot of it from GDPR, right? I
yep,
think that was the
yep.
basis of it. So, like you said, once you get one, you can sprout. For me, I try to do CCPA because rationalize. If you do CCPA in the United States, you're gonna be well covered. Like you might not hit everything, but most people aren't doing the level of CCPA. So you want to at least be negligent. So
Yeah, and it is good to point out, like, learn that basic stuff, but they are updating it, so
oh,
there's
facts.
always new rules and things coming out. But if you can start with the basics, like these rights that are given,
Mhm.
I think that'll really give you an idea what to look for, even if you're not even just as a regular person, not as a privacy person, but what to look at when you're logging onto these websites and they're hitting you with the privacy policy. I feel like it helps you just sort of fast forward to, like, okay, what is this company collecting? What are they doing with my data? Are they selling it? Do I need to opt out of something? And just you're just I feel like you'll be just a smudge more um, better informed about that sensitive stuff that we're sharing.
Yeah, and I don't think most people think of it. I think, especially, I'm picking on you, your generation, man. You just click
Give it away.
just click the click through, man. Just click the click through. The crazy thing is, I need to get him out. He's a ML expert, and he said, "You giving your data away free to Facebook? They make $1 billion on your data. How much is your data worth?" I just never thought about it like that. He said that stuff you give them for free, they selling it to advertisers for billions of dollars, man. Because when the last time you gave Facebook money, I go never. So how are they making $1 billion? Right. So I just never thought about it like that. So let's see. I dropped the link. Any more questions? We about to shut it on down. Oh, people about to go to bed. So I'll let you give your last. If you want to add anything before we shutting it down, you want to add anything?
No, I would just say give a thought
Yeah.
to how how this stuff is going to look with the way AI is moving. So you go from consent to share my data to consent to train your model on my data. Like that's a whole other thing. So
Facts.
I think it's good to consider that. And there will be folks out there that end up in a GRC at a company that's got a tool that they're working on, um,
Wow.
and that's got some training sort of element to it. So
Hmm. The company I used to, we talk about looking into the RP and the RFI user consent is, are you consenting companies' data to be trained on? So we try to opt out of that. When I used to work from, well, how do you opt out of that, right? Or can you opt out of that in the contract, all right? Or if not, can you get some compensation for that? Try to get a discount on your license, all right? So, but like you said, some new um, touch points and data elements you need to put in consideration because that's the thing. Because if you read a lot of stuff now, they just tell you your data in there. We're gonna anonymize it so they won't know who you are, but we're gonna use it for training, right? So you kind of like you opting in for Facebook to sell it. You opting in for them to use that data to train their model. But once again, I tell people when you pay zero for a service, that's the price of the service, right?
Yep.
You think Chris's number's correct? You see it on the screen?
I thought it would have been higher, to be honest.
Oh,
But it's an average, so maybe so.
yeah, yeah. At first, I thought that number was bigger, but then I think they got 1 billion people. I mean, Facebook and Google, right? They got some crazy. So if you do that per user and it's 1 billion rows, right? That's a crazy amount of money. But people don't realize that's why ChatGPT sold out to Microsoft because, and I did a stream on that and I was a little shocked is there really not enough. There really is not enough power to run your AI models. So that's why Microsoft tried to start up 3 Mile Island nuclear plant because they need more energy. I was like, we start up nuclear plants. I was like, I think I saw that on Terminator. Tell me if I'm wrong. I was like, man, we get the power. So that kind of shocked me with that. So I did a stream on that they're actually we start nuclear plants because there's not enough power to run those AI models because their chips are like a couple factors burn more power when you're doing those models like that. I just never thought of it like that. So once again, I think me you joining me tomorrow or are you busy, young
Yes,
man?
sir. I'm gonna be in there trying to. I need a cheat sheet. I think one day we're
Nah, I
gonna
feel
have to uh whether specifically for privacy or maybe specifically for this AWS architecture stuff, like all of the names and acronyms and stuff. I need something to look at and be like, okay, I think I know what PBO is talking about. But even still, like that one page you had up, I still want to take that back to Chat GPT and be like, what is he saying here?
I think I sent it.
Like,
I sent you an DM with that link, and I put the link inside tomorrow. I'll have it inside the description.
okay,
One thing cool about it, but even like me, I had to read it a couple times. That's cool when you talk about stacking your skills. I got some search, but some okay, I know what service that is, but when you start putting them together and they talking about nitro and bare metal, I'm like, what is that? I gotta read that. I was like, oh, I like that. I'm gonna have to start doing that, right? From a privacy perspective. I would never do that from a standard architecture because your architecture just got infinitely more complex, but that's infinitely better than $100 million fine from GDPR, right? So there's some pluses and minuses. So come check us out tomorrow at 6. We're gonna delve into them. Those last couple slides, we're gonna do more of those services. Let me bring them up real quick. We're gonna delve in them a little deeper. AWS Glue, AWS Brew, Amazon. I think the ones most people use. Probably Security Hub. Once again, at that top is that local zone, meaning you could do locally for GDPR while you have your processing your data in the United States, but the actual data is in GDPR, so you're not co-mingling. So if you had 100 million German, you're not commingling with your billion United States, causing you to do that extra security, extra processing, extra legal work, right? So your subset's smaller. So hopefully you would keep your costs down and hopefully cut down on your fine if something ever happened. Oh, let's see what my man Larry said. I don't know if yeah, I wouldn't say building it, but restarting it, and they're actually do. Of course, that's what tech companies do. They're actually making enhancements to nuclear, making it more efficient. But yeah, what could go wrong? You have a bug on that might not be cool. If you got a bug in there, that might not be cool if you got a bug in a nuclear power plant. But come check us out tomorrow at 6. I really enjoyed my man coming up, giving us his privacy expertise. We calling him a GRC study privacy guru, part of the GRC family. Come check us out in the Discord.
thanks for having me, y'all. See y'all soon.
All right, see y'all in the Discord. I'm out. Everybody have a